Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bimmer Barn. In today's episode, we're going to be working on my E46 Wagon, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to remove the entire rear subframe, and we're also going to be checking for cracks in the chassis of the car, which is a super common problem on the E46s. Hopefully, we don't have any problems with cracks or anything like that, and if we do, then we're going to have to look into reinforcing the rear end of the car. But I'm curious to see, because I know that I've seen a lot of track cars with these sort of problems, but a touring has more weight over the rear. So is it gonna be affected? Let's find out. So as you can see, we've started off by putting the car in the air on our quick jacks here, and I even put a jack stand underneath the mechanism that's kind of gonna act like a safety lock. So if this thing, for any reason, decides it wants to compress, that jack stand is gonna keep it from compressing, so it'll keep the car in the air. But like I said, we're gonna pull the rear subframe down. It's pretty simple. It's held in by 4 bolts. But before you do that, you're going to have to remove a couple other things like the drive shaft, the exhaust. You gotta get the e-brake cables out of the car. So I'm gonna show you that. We have to do that from the inside and pull them out under the bottom. And then we have to get the trailing arms from the front disconnected. And then finally, we'll get the 4 bolts that hold it. And I'm gonna use a floor jack in order to support the differential and slowly and carefully lower the entire subframe assembly. So once we've got it out, we're gonna proceed to doing a ton of upgrades. You can see I've got power flex bushings and seals and a ton more stuff to do on this car. But I'm gonna show you guys step by step how we're gonna change the bushings for the differential, for the subframe, for the trailing arm. Later down the road, we'll be doing the automatic transmission service and then the oil pan gasket in the front and new axles. So like I said, this car, hopefully we'll have it done really quickly here. I don't want to take it off the quick jacks until it's 100% done. So we got to make quick work, and I'm hopefully going to be showing you guys as much detail as possible during the entire process. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this content and this build. So let's go ahead and get right to work. Let's pull the wheels off and then get the exhaust down and go from there. Well, there you go. As you can see, I pulled off the exhaust, the center heat shield, and then we disconnected the rear of the drive shaft. I don't think we'll have to do anything besides that for the drive shaft in order to get the subframe down. The drive shaft can kind of just stay in the place that it is. The next thing that we need to do is we need to disconnect the emergency brake lines, the cables, that go from the underside of the car to the inside. They're held in by a couple of clips on the bottom. Once you pop those out, you just need to get them disconnected inside the car, and then you should be able to pull them through. So let's go inside the car and disconnect them from there. So we're gonna go ahead and release the boot cover for the e-brake, and right in there, I'll put my light on. Right in there, you can see the stud is what it looks like. That is the cable, and then you've got, well, what should be 2 nuts usually that hold the cable into the e-brake right here. On the other side, so I'm not sure if the E46s are a little different, but from what I've usually seen in the past, there are 2 nuts, one to tighten up this stud and the other one to lock down the stud, so the first nut doesn't move at all. But no problem. Let's see what size this is. I think it's like an 11 or a 12 millimeter. But as soon as you get that loosened all the way off, there's going to be nothing else holding the cable in, so we should be able to pull it from the underside out pretty easily. Alright, so it looks like it's a 10 millimeter for me. I'm going to go ahead and pull the e-brake up a little bit. That's going to give me a better access angle for this. Put on my socket and spin away. Boom, both of those nuts gone, and you can see I can almost push these cables out with my fingers up here. So we're gonna go ahead, go under the car now and pull these out. Well, there it is. There's our e-brake cable. You trace it. It comes all the way out through here and then goes under the gas tank and then into the chassis right there. So pulling it out from the clip right here on the gas tank, you should have enough wiggle room, and then you're going to pull it straight out from here, and there's nothing holding it in here, but there is some corrosion, so I might grab my channel locks and then pulling on it, because I don't think it's gonna come loose on its own. Let's try the other side. Oh, I think the other side is coming loose already. So this side might wanna, oh, there we go. See how it's flexible? It comes out real easy. And there's the stud that we were messing with before. So just gonna go ahead and dangle that right here, and let's see if we can get the other one. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get my channel locks to get this one loose, but hey, that one came out pretty easily. So that's how you get the e-brake cables removed, and keep in mind that they are routed through the chassis of the car right here. So be careful when you're lowering the subframe, because it will want to bind right up here at the front. But as long as these things are loose and you pull them out as you lower the subframe, you shouldn't have an issue. Now some other things we're going to have to disconnect in order to get this subframe uninstalled is going to be the rear strut. You can see there's an 18mm bolt that holds it in here, and you're going to want to remove the load that's on this strut by putting a jack or a dead man underneath the axle here and lifting up the axle, and that way there's not going to be any load on this bolt. So you can remove the 18mm, and then the only other thing to do is to disconnect the brake lines, because the brake lines connect the chassis to the brakes, obviously. So we're going to take the brake lines off, that way the brake calipers and everything comes down with the subframe. And then besides that, I think we're really close to dropping it. There's only a couple more bolts that are holding it in, the 18mm that are right here. And everything, literally everything, is going to drop with the subframe assembly. So the springs are going to come down, the differential is going to come down, the sway bar is going to come down with the subframe. So that's how we're going to be able to get it out of the way. And then we're going to inspect the chassis of the car and see if there's anything weird going on there. Perfect. Well, as you saw, we removed the main bolts from the lower struts, so both of those are dangling loose. We also removed the 3 bolts that hold the trailing arm in. So you can see the trailing arm right here, lowered from its mounted position, which should be up there. And because we removed that, the springs are now, falling out. So there's nothing holding these springs in, because this whole assembly is sagging down low. So the only next step that we have is going to be to release the 2 bolts for the rear of the subframe, and then we have the 2 nuts in the front that are still holding it on as well. I'm gonna put my jack underneath the differential, and hopefully we can get the axles to land on these rolling pads right here, and that'll make it easy for us to get the subframe out from under the car, out of the way for us to service it and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that unfortunately, I believe that we are gonna have to replace the struts. This rear one isn't that bad. It does have some life left in it. Clearly works. I have to really get some leverage to lift it up. But check this one out. This thing is totally dead. There's no springiness in this at all. It's got probably no fluid in there, so we definitely need to replace these struts. Probably not sure if we'll go with Bilsteins. I know that these are Bilsteins, but I'll do a price check. We might go with a more OEM strut or maybe the Bilsteins. So there's the last 2 bolts, one there and one right there. And then you've got the 2 nuts at the front of the subframe, one right there and one right there. These are all 18 millimeters. We're gonna loosen them, remove them, hold the differential up from the jack right here, and then slowly release it down at the same time while we pull it backwards and try to get the e-brake lines out of the chassis. So wish me luck. And there you have it. Subframe is dropped, fully removed from the car. And now let's go ahead and take a peek underneath it and see if we have any chassis damage. So this is our rear subframe points right here. That definitely looks clean. Here's the other rear one right here. A little bit of surface rust on these, I think these are like pinch welds or something like that. I don't know why these started up, but yeah, we can also scrape down this grease right here and check, get a better view of the metal, but looks like it's clean. Looks like there's no cracks. And here are the front subframe points. These look really clean as well. I can't tell that there's any cracking going on or splitting like that. Usually you would see it come out from the center, but that doesn't appear to be a problem here. There is just some minor rust, some surface rust is what it looks like. So what we'll probably do here is I'll get like a scrubbing brush, maybe some degreaser. We'll see if we can clean off this gunk here, and then that way we'll have a better idea underneath the gunk if there is any damage, cracks. Like I said, I don't think there is. And then from there, we can probably cover up these rust spots, seal them so that the rust stops, doesn't continue anymore, and we won't have to worry about reinforcing this frame, hopefully. So pretty interesting to find. Like I said, mostly coupes, E46 M3s that I've seen and I've done the reinforcements on for clients before, but in the sedan, I'm not sure if it's as common of a problem. And for the touring as well, looks like it's not exactly a problem here. But then again, this car probably wasn't tracked or anything too aggressively. But yeah, it is surprising to see that 200 and something thousand miles later, and these chassis points still look 100% good. Yay! I can definitely sleep better now that we've grinded down the surface and we can see that there is no cracks anywhere on the chassis of this car. Like I said, we do have a little bit of rust from the spot welds from the chassis where they do those weldings in the production process, but that's not a big issue because it's not structural, it's just on the surface. I already started grinding it down, but we do need to do a little bit more grinding. But what's nice is that we have 0 cracks on this frame, so we don't have to reinforce it, although I know there's plenty of reason to do it as a preventative maintenance. But I don't know, is it possible that the touring rear chassis is more reinforced than the factory chassis on M3s and coupes and stuff like that? Maybe someone can comment down below. I mean, to me it would make sense if I was an engineer at BMW, because you're gonna load up the trunk with stuff back here, so bigger capacity should mean that you should reinforce the frame. So that's what I would have done if I was a BMW designer, but who knows. So that's all that we have for today, folks. We're probably going to put some rust remover on this rust, like I said, grind it down a little bit more, and then just spray it in a couple spots with some rust reformer spray from Rust-Oleum, which I really like, and that's going to seal the rust. It's going to stop it from spreading, and that'll probably be that. Then the only thing that we need to worry about is this subframe and replacing all of the bushings, the 4 for the subframe, the 3 for the differential, and then the 2 for the trailing arm, which I'm gonna show you guys how to do all of those. Well, there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I apologize for the grease that's on my face. Obviously, when you're working underneath a car that's had years and years of dirt buildup, it's gonna break free and land on you, so that is something that we cannot avoid. But I hope you guys enjoyed the content and learning about removing the rear subframe on your E46 and what you can do to check for cracks or damage to the chassis and what options you have as well. So obviously, if you have cracks, you're gonna wanna get those fixed. It's really recommended to drill the crack so that it doesn't spread any longer. And you do that by making a circular hole at the end of the crack, and that way it has nowhere else to go. And then you want to fill in the crack with welding, and then you're going to have to reinforce the subframe in order to make sure that the problem doesn't spread anymore. But since we didn't have that issue on our car, we just have a little bit of surface rust to worry about, and that gives us more time to move right into the next few videos, which are going to be focusing on all those bushings for the rear end, courtesy of PowerFlex. And then we're also going to take the rear subframe apart so that we can clean it and surface prep it and rust remove it and then spray paint it as well. So I want to get this subframe looking really good, and that way for the next owner they have that peace of mind that there's going to be no more rust bubbling up anywhere, no more surface rust. It's going to be a clean car whether you want to drive it in a snowy state or not. So if you enjoy this content, please leave a like down below. Comment what you think of the whole E46 chassis cracking problem, if you've experienced it on your car, or if there's something that I missed that you want to mention in the comments, please do. And subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't yet. As always, I hope everyone has an awesome day, and we'll see you in the next video.